Welcome to another episode of Believe in Giants. Bob Papa, two-time Super Bowl champion Carl Banks. Giants to take on the Detroit Lions on Sunday at MetLife Stadium. And Carl, I know you being a proud Michigan State man, born and raised in Flint, Michigan. For you personally, do you get a little extra juice when you see the Honolulu Blue of the Lions?
Not really. Not at this stage.
Were you a Lions fan as a kid?
I was a fan of players, to be honest with you. I grew up without a football team. I rooted for the Lions for sure, but Billy Sims and Gary Danielson and those guys were Gary Huggaboom were guys I liked, and then obviously you had Barry and Herman Moore after I had gotten out of college and was a pro myself, but Lomas Brown. So I was somewhat of a fan of my local team, but right now I don't get that much juice at all about it. It's just a game. But as a matter of fact, and I'm going back to Flint later on today. My younger brother is getting married tomorrow, so I'll be there, hear a little trash talk. And then I'll get back on the plane and head home to watch the game and be a part of it.
Oh, so there are Lions fans in the family, though.
Oh, without a doubt, yes.
So they are beleaguered people. Beleaguered people.
Thank God they are not New York fans, because if they suffered, like New York fans.
Yeah.
Which they have, mentally, but they just don't they're just too nice in Detroit. They get upset, but they don't trash everybody. It's the nice part of, where people are a little more polite. Like, fandom is fandom, but if you could transport New York fans of any sport into Detroit and let them suffer that losing, oh my gosh, it would be brutal.
Well, they're going to get a good game at Ford Field this weekend because they got the high-flying Buffalo Bills and the Cleveland Browns coming into play. And, Detroit seems to be the place that whenever there's some sort of natural disaster around the country, it feels like the Lions are always away that week, and they can use Ford Field. I mean, the Jets have played there on a rescheduled Bills game. The Giants played there when the Metrodome roof collapsed. I mean, Detroit is the spot. It's a really nice stadium, Ford Field.
Well, they know how to build stadiums in Detroit. That's for sure.
They certainly do. So one thing they don't do is play good defense. The Lions are dead last in total, dead last in scoring, 31st in rushing defense, dead last in third down defense, 31st in big plays allowed, dead last in yards per play. So is this a simple recipe of the Giants just running the rock with the NFL's leading rusher right now, Saquon Barkley?
Well, they're not just going to let him do it. Again, like I said, going into the Texans game, that look, they don't want to be last. Right. They're gonna do what they can to not be last. It's one of those deals where they're gonna have to commit something, and they're going to be vulnerable to something else, similar to what Green Bay did to stop the resources they committed to stop Derrick Henry. And there were some passing things available, and that's how Ryan Tannehill took control of that game. But here's the other thing, the word of caution. When playing the Detroit Lions, they're never out of a game. I mean, they can score some points. They've been behind in every game, and they just come rallying back. They play with great energy. I think for the Giants, they have to play to their profile. They cannot say, well, we're just going to, just if they're 30th in the league, we're just going to keep running it until we break one. They're going to be committed to it because that's who the Giants are, but they have to be open strategically to exploiting things, but also on their terms, passing the ball to get some points on the board.
All right, so that leads us to the Giants passing game. I mean, Daniel Jones, who, earned the reputation as a turnover machine after his rookie season, has rapidly decrease that number. He's thrown 2 interceptions this season. He's got 2 lost fumbles. He's protecting the football. The Giants have the 3rd fewest giveaways in the NFL this year. Passing game, how do they kind of attack this Lions defense with their passing game? Obviously, Darius Slayton has been a big factor. And then the big storyline is, right, Kenny Golladay. He says he's going to go. He says he feels good that the hamstring, as of this recording, it looks like he's going to play. I would think he's got a chip on his shoulder going against his former team. Did you get any blowback about your stance about Golladay and from our last podcast?
No. And I do believe he needs a collective fan hug, a pat on the back, a swift kick in the butt, and tell him, let's go. But no, I just don't. I don't think it's helpful because we all see it. He sees it too. Nobody wants to be better at this game than Kenny Golladay at this point. But yeah, they are going to need him to contribute. So, I didn't expect everybody to agree with it because they're upset. But when he is practicing well, that's why he gets on the field, because Brian Dable's crew, they go on the merit system. You practice hard, then you get an opportunity to play. So obviously he practices well enough to be a part of the 53 on Sunday. And if they put him in the game, they believe that he can make a play or two, but he's going to have to be a contributor.
The Lions have won 2 in a row. They haven't won 3 in a row since 2017. The Giants want to make sure that doesn't happen. Just talk a little bit about what you believe the Giants need to do in this game defensively to kind of slow down this offense that, look, they use multiple backs, whether it's Swift or Williams. St. Brown has been a heck of a weapon on the outside. From when your breakdown of it, what are some of the things that the Giants have to do in this game in order to be successful defensively?
Well, I think they're interior 3 or interior 4 guys, depending on how they line them up. They've got to be extremely disciplined with their gaps because a guy like Swift will take it out the back door. He'll start one way and cut left and get everyone over pursuing. So Leonard and Dex and your 2 outside guys have got to be really disciplined on the edges and in their gaps. And then the other part too, which is, this is a problem for all most NFL teams right now too. The inside linebacker position has to hold up. They just can't get Velcroed onto linemen at the second level because that will result in big plays. The Giants have given up some big plays in the middle of their defense when opposing teams have been able to get linemen on their interior linebackers.
Yeah, and Micah McFadden, the rookie, he's getting more snaps. Tay Crowder only had a handful of snaps on defense last week. And again, it's one of those deals where the thing I like about this staff, Carl, and you know it, we're around them plenty, is there's no bullshit. There's no BSing. Right. Like, everybody kind of knows where they stand. It's not like some mystery when snaps kind of go out the window. It's based on how you're playing and how you're performing. And if somebody else can do the job better, they're putting that guy in. It's plain and simple. And I think that's kind of one of the recipes to this culture change, is that there's complete transparency and everybody knows it's a meritocracy.
Right. And they play players and they devise game plans based on their opponent. Now, this is also kind of highlighting some of the needs of this team and personnel, because when you have to substitute players from game to game, you don't have a player good enough or versatile enough to be that 3-down player, that 2-down player, or a starter in this league. So you're starting to see some glaring deficiencies when you see a lot of rotation, with the exception of the interior guys, because you have 2 there that are going to be here and good enough to be on the field. But the inside linebacker position, I think they had high hopes for Darian Beavers when he, prior to him getting injured, he looked like a player who can play downhill at linebacker. And they're going to need those types of players. But right now, it's who do we have that can play downhill against a certain opponent? You're in. Tay, you're not going to be in on this one because you don't play downhill.
You know, it's amazing how things have changed. So each week, NFL Network sends out a media research package, and it's a long document that gets emailed. And, you know, the Giants have been lousy for a long time. And normally when we get to this point in the season, like some games have like 4 pages worth of notes and stats and all this other stuff that the research department has dug up. And then some of the games that are less meaningful or whatever, you know, they have maybe they're like 3 pages. Some are 5 or 6 pages if it's a really big game, right? And I just noticed this because I was looking at the Giants-Lions page, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 pages. But here's how you know things have changed, and it made me feel good. You know, in the past, the last couple of years, the Giants have been so bad that, you know, there'd be like a Saquon Barkley, a couple of notes on him, maybe a Daniel Jones note, and most of the stats and write-up for the game were about the opponent. I'm looking here. So I'm looking at the Giants and Lions, and basically the Lions get the last page, but the first 2 pages are all Giants stats and notes and historical things and all this other stuff. And I'm like, damn, they're finally back. Back. They got more notes than the opponent.
There are so many indications from the fan base support to the way the team is being covered or not being covered, meaning, you know, the naysayers with Saquon Barkley that hung out all offseason just bashing, and I'm talking guys in the media, not just the fan base. The Daniel Jones slander, it's more, it's you don't hear the folks on TV just bashing them and making fun of this team. And even the fan base, there's something's not good enough with Daniel Jones, but it's just not, oh, he's garbage. You know, he's a guy that I think everyone's come to respect for what he is, because he's in a great system. He can execute, he takes care of the football. And, you know, everybody wants fantasy football stats and they want Madden-like offenses, but that's not the reality for this team. And this is a guy who's executing based on what's needed to win football games.
So in the research notes, they did a comparison between Barkley and Barry Sanders from 1997 when Sanders won the MVP. Now, unless the Giants run the table, the MVP has unfortunately become a quarterback award, and I understand why. But the year that Sanders won the MVP in 97, through 9 games, he had 186 carries through 9 games. Barkley has 198. Sanders had 998 yards rushing through 9 games. Barkley's got 931. Sanders had 195 receiving yards through 9 games. Barkley has 197. And Sanders had 6 scrimmage touchdowns through 9 games. Barkley has 6. Sanders went on to win the MVP that year. Let's see what Barkley does with these remaining 8 games.
You know,
just throwing it out there.
If Saquon Barkley if he continues to play well, I wouldn't count out a non-quarterback, right? I think you got Justin Jefferson, who's basically poised to get 2,000 yards receiving for the first time ever in the history of this league, right? Those type of stats are MVP worthy as well. So, you know, you can look at some of these quarterbacks and all of a sudden the media love for Josh Allen has kind of waned a little bit because he leads the league in interceptions, right? So it's no longer the talk of him being a runaway MVP. And we'll see. I mean, you have some usual suspects that are up there, but if they don't wow you with, wow, he was better than last year. Like Aaron Rodgers won back-to-back MVPs because he was better than his MVP season. if some of these quarterbacks are not better than their MVP seasons or MVP caliber seasons, you're going to have to legitimately consider a Justin Jefferson or a Saquon Barkley or even a Geno Smith if he continues to play well.
Yeah, I think right now the fast track, if things kind of hold form, it'll probably wind up going to Patrick Mahomes, but he's pretty special. What any other things any other takeaways you have about this game? Anything you want to get off your chest? You seem very relaxed in this episode. Like
well, yeah,
really
because I got it all off in our last episode. I would I would like to see the Giants go into a fourth quarter not having to win the game, because the Detroit Lions, if you make the mistakes or you have the mishaps that you had against the the Texans.
Correct.
Detroit will make you pay. They're that potent offensively. They've got a lot of different formations. And in crunch time, they go into their bag and see what they could, what they can trick you with. So they need to get a comfortable lead and keep Detroit playing at a deficit in the fourth quarter.
Weather could be a factor only because at least the reports right now are they're saying winds could be like 17 miles per hour. And there could be some gusts that crack 20. This is as of now. Anything can change between now and Sunday. But for a team that does like to throw the ball, like the Lions, that could be a factor because the wind in the stadium is, it is what it is. It's not as bad as Giant Stadium, but it's still a tricky situation. Special teams then come into play in all this.
Sure. And it's not a north-south wind either. It's not like it goes up and down the field. It goes across the field, the wind in MetLife Stadium.
So I got to give it. I was at the Teddy Atlas Foundation dinner last night on Staten Island, and I got up this morning. I stayed at the hotel there, and I got up this morning and my car wouldn't start. So the battery's dead. Wow. So I call the people from the Atlas Foundation. I say, hey, can you help me out here? And of course, they respond right away. So I got to give a shout out because they had no cash on me because I spent some cash on the 50-50 raffle last night,
sure.
Just to donate money. So I was light on cash anyway. So my man, who's one of Teddy's good friends, and he helps run the event, my man Paulie. I gotta get his last name right.
No,
Paulie.
He goes by Paulie in Staten Island. Just Paulie.
No,
Teddy Atlas guy Paulie.
Paulie Quattrochi. He owns Dependable Auto Body. So I call Paulie up. He's got a guy. Everybody's got a guy.
Yeah.
And he goes, don't worry, Bob. I'll take care of you. I'll get that. So you got J&J Towing to show up. And Nefty jump starts my car. And I said to him,
Paulie and Nefty.
I said, Nefty, I'm sorry. Can I Venmo you some cash, like a tip? I have no cash on me. He goes, don't worry about it. He goes, I'm a huge Giants fan. I love listening to you and Carl Banks on the radio. He said, he goes, I'll be working on Sunday. He goes, just get me a win. So Nefty, J&J Towing on Staten Island, and my man Paulie at Dependable Auto Body. Thank you for getting me here on time to do this thing with Banks.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome.
I saw a couple of your former teammates last night. Phil Simms was there. Harry Carson was there.
Nice.
Thunderous ovation. It's amazing how, even on Staten Island, which tends to skew a little more Jets, it's amazing how fired up people are about the Giants. Man.
Listen, it feels so good. Like when the Giants are winning and they're giving the effort that this team is giving, it's not hard to rally around them. They are this is what Giant fans look for. That's all they've been asking for. And
I can't remember. I don't even think they told me what their names were, but two guys during the cocktail hour come up to me and they're like, hey, Bob, big Giant fan. Can I take a picture? So I'm like, yeah. So I took a picture with the one guy, took a picture with the other guy. And they both, when they thanked me, Instead of thanking me, they just looked at me and they said, "Tell a friend to tell a friend."
Ah!
And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, big Believe in Giants subscribers."
Oh, that's awesome.
Big.
That
So
is awesome.
I said, "Go buy yourself one of those T-shirts that we're not getting a cut on."
There we go.
All right. Anything else to get off your chest?
That's it, man.
All right. So how do we end it? As always,
Tell a friend to tell a friend.
tell a friend to tell a friend. Next week, I'm just going to tell everybody next week, we'll do a recap of the Lions game and a preview all in one shot because it's Thanksgiving, but we're looking forward to it. And thanks for joining us for this edition of Believe in Giants.